Well, look at us in person again. This is Corey, and this is the O The Anthem podcast.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Rob. Welcome to a special early-ish earlier than usual episode 320 of the O The Anthem podcast, coming to you once again from the hashtag OTA LA studios, high above the 110 freeway in downtown Los Angeles, California. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you for listening on your podcatcher of choice. The best way to do it, anchor.fm/O The Anthem. And for checking us out on all the social medias, including YouTube, where you can find the video version, and Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the places.
And as a reminder, no matter where you're watching us live right now, Facebook or Twitter via Periscope or Twitch or over on YouTube, leave us a comment wherever you're watching, and we can see all your comments. We'll throw them right up here on the screen right below us, and you can be part of the conversation. So
yes, indeed.
So, obviously, the first top news of the week, Corey has allowed me to come back to the studio, so that's nice.
I haven't locked you out. No, we decided that there was a irregularity, and we decided to self-quarantine for a little while. And in that time, you also got tested.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get your results yet?
Negative.
Yeah,
We're negative. So
I know Roxanne was negative. So,
and listen, it's what's good for one is good for the other. Honestly, there's a high chance of cross-contamination given all factors. So yeah, everything's good. I'm just gonna say it's funny that Corey was very harsh on you might have been exposed, so we want to make sure we separate. And then he started missing producer Carly a lot, and all of a sudden the rules got a little bit flexible.
That was not me. That was there were other forces at play there. But no, it's I'll tell you, it was really weird doing the podcast over the internet. Not actually seeing you in a way, I feel like sort of takes away a little bit of the banter.
The je ne sais quoi.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, it's not ideal, but I feel like it worked out well for us, and we got to play with some new things. And
I think for future things we'd love to do, like doing another movie review with Jim Force, his reviews available on YouTube, and he's over on Twitter. That functionality of being able to be in remote locations and kind of call in and do it would be perfect for that. So we figured out a better way to do that with all of this. Yeah.
So silver lining there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I thought the last two shows were still very good.
Yeah.
And it's just different. It's like if I told you to start throwing the ball left-handed instead of right, there's going to be a little bit where it's just like this is weird. It doesn't feel the same.
There are shows where it's a lot of hey, you do your thing and then I'll do my thing, and it's throw to the other person for their segment.
Right.
It's easier to do those when you're in different locations.
Yeah.
It's not as much of the direct banter.
I think shows that are more scripted are a little bit easier to do like that.
Well, I mean, Howard's not as funny if Robin's not in the room.
Right.
Because part of it is he's performing for Robin.
Yeah.
Not for everybody who's listening.
Right.
But then, Artie's not there, and it's he's going to do his thing.
Or just like those guys with the Big O and Duke show, the ones who laugh like people in Arkham Asylum or something like that.
So here's what I realized, by the way, because I was listening with Roxy in the car, and I had to slow it down to, normal person speed.
Right.
It's not that bad when you listen to it at 1. The problem is at 1.9, 2.1, it does sound like they're crazy. It's just like a high pitch. Right. So it's very weird. But if you listen to it at 1, it actually sounds more normal.
I don't even understand how I listen to things at 1 anymore.
I can't.
Some people, and I love our podcasting community, our space here and everything like that. Some of y'all talk really slow.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I appreciate the information, but when I'm listening to a podcast and it's you're listening to the 538 Politics podcast, and I'm just nope, faster.
Gotta give it to me fast. Honestly, I would listen to it in the car at at 1.1, 1.3, whatever was acceptable to me to slow it down to. And then I forgot about it. And the next time I put it in, I switched podcast. And I was just what is wrong? I realized on my scooter ride to work, I forgot I was listening to it.
Yeah.
Because it was so slow. I was oh, right, the speed is way down. Can't even listen to it at that speed.
One thing I am very appreciative of now is that the Google Casting allows for the speed increase now when you're listening on Pocket Cast. So now I can listen to any speaker in the house at 1.5 speed or whatever, and it doesn't. It used to be that if you cast a podcast to like the speaker in the bathroom, then it would slow down to 1, and I'd be like just going nuts, like listening to slow talking. Like it's so unnerving to me.
And Karina Longworth, I love you, and I love your podcast. I cannot listen to that podcast at speed. It just feels like it takes forever. I'm like, get to the good stuff.
With her specifically, I've noticed that I get used to music at 1.5 speed, and like every once in a while, like because Rachel likes You Must Remember This as well. So like I'll play it in the car with her, and then every once in a while, like I have to put it down to 1, and I'm listening, and then all of a sudden it's just like. I'm just like, why is this so slow? It's messing with my brain. It'd be like if you listen to like like a half speed version of like Jay-Z, and you're just like, this isn't what it's supposed to sound like.
Yeah, I know what this song is. It's not right. Ads because everybody does basically the same company's ads on podcasts too.
Yeah,
like the intro music for some of the ones, that's weird too.
Right.
It's just like if you hear it at a different speed, I'm like, what is this? What's going on? Oh, ad. Okay, yeah, I didn't even recognize this was an ad. Got me. Damn it. I listened to your advertisement. Speaking of which, Stamps.com. We'd love to... I'm actually a user. By the way, Stamps.com is actually super convenient when you have to go wait in line for an hour at the post office.
Printing out at home makes it easier.
Yeah, super nice. Actually, very, very nice. But so we are back in studio. Quarantine is over. And it looks like quarantine is over for most of the country because Memorial Day has brought out the crazies. We're going to get into that. Don't worry. But it is Memorial Day weekend, Corey.
Yes.
Do you have any big plans for Memorial Day weekend?
I mean, it pretty much involves staying here in the apartment. I don't know what else to really say. Just generally speaking, I know that people want to get out and there's like a thirst to get out and stuff like that. But I find that so much of what's the fun in going out if there's nothing to do on the other end?
Yeah.
It has always been kind of weird for me. And, there's still not like, even though Maryland's opened back up, it's not like they're, like restaurants are open.
No.
Or like you can go ride the zipper or something like that. Like it's still closed. Like you're just walking the boardwalk in front of a lot of closed stores.
I do want to mention this when we get into it, but they're enforcing social distancing on the beach, by the way.
Yeah.
The lifeguards are enforcing. So if you're on the sand, 6 foot. If you're on the boardwalk, it's anarchy. I don't understand it. I do not understand it. But anyway,
we'll get there.
So we it's a weird Memorial Day weekend because here in LA, most of the buildings are still keeping their amenities closed. So even if we were going to stay in the building and do anything, even the amenities in the building are closed.
Yeah.
So you can't really barbecue. You can't go to a pool. There's nothing. Just,
right.
Hey, it's a day off. So my intention is to sleep in.
Can't go to the basketball court and do some shirts for skins.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely couldn't do that. I wouldn't do that anyway. But yeah, we can't do that. But in order to just to celebrate the fact that quarantine is lifting and it's a holiday weekend anyway, we do have a special announcement for everybody, and that is Corey will eventually, sometime before this event actually tolls, have an advertisement out for the new T-shirt, but. In the time being, you may have seen if you follow us on social media, and of course you can do that at O The Anthem on all your social networks, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere, at O The Anthem. You may have seen that we are running a sweepstakes to give away a free T-shirt.
Yes. So the brand new DTLA T-shirt, as modeled by Katya in the picture there, is going to be given out to one lucky person.
Oh,
so.
Yes.
If you go to otheanthem.com/sweepstakes.html, then you can sign up there or go to any of the social media, as we said. And
click through the link.
Yeah.
And we're going to be doing a drawing on July 1st, so it's going to close on June 30th. So it's a little bit of a summer / Memorial Day / 4th of July kind of giveaway, I guess. Mm-hmm. But, of course, there is not a T-shirt already here, so we'll be able to get it in your size, whatever your size is. It will be your T-shirt for you, a DTLA T-shirt. And for what it's worth, I did get hit up by a couple of people who were like, hey, I'd like to buy it. even if it's not like, through the sweepstakes. And I'm like, oh yeah, I mean, I can send you a link to it. It is available in the store if you just would like to purchase it.
You don't have to just win it. Like it's still
it's available. So go and check out the store, which is otheanthem.com/store.html.
Yeah.
And you can actually get the t-shirt there. But if you'd like a chance to win one, go and sign up for the sweepstakes, and we'll be giving one away at the end of the month.
Yes, indeed.
All right. So a little bit out of order from our usual way of doing things, but I think that we are going to start off this episode by taking a trip on down to the Baltimore corner.
Where you get the straight dope?
Absolutely. And we got to do that because things in Maryland are just going nuts. And I feel like if we don't do the Baltimore corner first, we may not have a chance to do it before the entire state erupts in anarchy.
Well, also, we're a week away from the release of this podcast from the Democratic primary in Maryland. And this is our opportunity to give our last impressions of the race before voting starts.
Mm-hmm. Let me summarize. Don't vote. Okay, go ahead, Corey.
If you were to vote, though, Rob will give you a lot of choices as to how to consider.
Vote guillotine 2020.
It's our opportunity to sort of break down the field and sort of see where we are.
Sure. Yeah.
But first, before we get into that, I'm thinking back to Kent Brockman in the episode of The Simpsons where that lizard jumped in front of the camera.
Yes.
And he was assumed that the monsters had taken over.
Yes.
And he, for one, would like to welcome his new reptile overlords. And I'd like to do the same thing for right now for the Chesapeake Godzilla, which is the alligator that has been found roaming around the Inner Harbor, apparently.
Listen, human beings are a menace. Nature is healing itself.
There's a lot of people who I heard saying unkind things about the Chinese and wet markets and all that sort of stuff with the eruption of coronavirus.
Yes.
I don't think we should minimize the fact that an alligator who is put into radioactive material like this usually turns into like a villain in a Spider-Man thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, even though it hasn't happened yet, doesn't mean that we shouldn't examine the possibility that it could be happening in the future.
And of course, if some animal control officer were to be
we're not going to be able to, clearly it's going to come aground at some point, and then people are going to start shooting at it and it'll become bigger and more powerful. Like the ammo will just cause it to anger itself, and
animal control tries to capture it. It bites one of the guys and he becomes
it transfers over.
Yeah, because it's as we know, the radioactivity affects the animal, which then bites the human, giving it the characteristics. Is it Doc Ock is the one from Doc Ock is the octopus. Who is the gator from?
Well, I mean, Spider-Man got bit by a radioactive spider and became Spider-Man.
But then there's a doctor who tries to regrow his limb by giving himself alligator.
Yeah.
What is that guy's name?
It's a reptile, isn't it?
Is it just reptile?
I thought it was.
Oh, I thought it was a fancy.
I mean, you're putting me on the spot and making me nervous that I don't know that correctly, but
yeah, it could absolutely be Spider-Man villains.
Reptile.
Google search. The Lizard.
Yeah.
The Lizard. Reptile is a character from X-Men.
Oh, okay.
X-Men universe who can flip his skin. So there's a guy who flips his skin into adamantium. His name is Titan, I want to say. But Reptile is the guy who flips it and he just turns into
all our street cred from Heretics is just melting away at the moment.
Oh, man. Well, not really, because nobody understood what the concept of that was. So it's okay. So we're fine. By the way, Heretics is a world where there are no religions or gods. Superheroes have entered the picture and they become gods.
Yeah. Find
Heretics at youtube.com/O The Anthem. It's a wonderful 5-episode story web series.
Season.
It's amazing. So here's the thing. The initial reaction to the story of a alligator in the bay or in the harbor was absolutely correct, which on Twitter was generally like, kill it! Like, yes, we absolutely should do everything we can to kill the beast because it is only going to get stronger. If it can survive in the water of the Inner Harbor, I mean, there's a chance it's going to mate with Miss Trash Wheel. What does that child look like?
Yeah.
I don't know. Horrible.
A combination of conservation and terror.
Dwight from The Office. the Earth Day bot or whatever that just slowly gets more horrible over time. Oh, God. I've watched too much Office.
What about a Mrs. Trash Wheel, but one that murdered?
Hey, we're just spitballing screenplay ideas here. But yeah, so
don't anybody tell Jack Young too quick. He might consider it.
I just want to say that the irony.
I'm not the one murdering people. Mrs. Trash Wheel is.
The irony of this is
the big eyes is like, what?
If the harbor was swimmable and fishable this year, which by the way,
definitely
it was not, but it was supposed to be, that the alligator would then once again make it not.
Damn you, COVID-19. If it wasn't for that, we would be there.
Somebody give Jack the softball. Like, well, I mean, COVID. We, of course, we're not able to swim and fish, and it's a public place. We have to close down. We're not allowed any swimming in the harbor while coronavirus is in the public. So, stay out of the harbor. Also, there's an alligator.
Amongst other things. It's like every once in a while, the National Geographic gets a super amazing submarine that goes deeper into the water than ever before.
Yeah.
And we get to see some sort of fish that looks like a nightmare that we never knew existed before.
Yes.
Something with teeth and saws and stuff like that. And we're just like, holy shit, look at that thing. That I assume the inner harbor is just filled with that. And we can't see it because, the layers of dirt and debris that cover up the surface don't allow us to see deep enough into the
what's crawling around
60-foot deep water.
Yeah.
To examine what's underneath there.
I have to say that
and no camera can go down because it would just burn.
I was terrified that alligator floating on the surface might like Lake Placid just be swallowed whole by a giant alligator that's actually down in the depths of the harbor. And you'd be like, oh, look, an alligator. And then a 60-foot alligator swallows it. And you're like, oh, there's a bigger one down there. Okay, we should be careful. But as we know, those the Chicago tourists jumped in 3 years ago, and they were fine.
Just imagine if you were out on one of the little dragon paddle boats, and you're just like, oh look, it's Federal Hill over there, and then all of a sudden you just saw a 60-foot alligator just starting to circle your little dragon.
But at the same time, even if you wanted to bail out and swim for it, you can't.
You can't. You
the
die.
Water's terrible. Oh God!
I think I'd rather be eaten by the alligator than get what kind of bubonic plague the
worst
the
of all
bay provides.
Like Jonah, he swallows you whole. Now you're stuck in its stomach with the water. Oh, just a slow death. I can't imagine.
Got to make the journey through the end like Lemmy Winks.
A lot of deep pulls. A lot of deep pulls. Oh man. So in maybe less entertaining news, the Office of the Inspector General.
Back to Baltimore corruption news.
Back to other terrible things about Baltimore. The Office of the Inspector General released a report that basically said, to kind of explain this, my understanding of it anyway, upon the reading of the report, there is a board, an auction board that is in charge of anything that goes to bid in the city, any auctioning that happens. Now, you might think, oh, there's not that much stuff that goes to auction, but in a city where people just don't pay property taxes because they're ridiculous, the city will often take your property.
Right.
And, if they take your car and they tow it and then you go to get it, and Corey, were you ever towed in Baltimore?
Yes.
What was the tow bill like when you went the same day to pick up the car?
Yeah.
Like $900.
I don't think it was that much. Because I was there within a half hour of it arriving.
So if they don't log it in yet,
I mean, I walked there, and I got there about half hour after my car. But I think it was $450 or something like that, cash, by the way, too.
Yeah, and they don't tell you it's cash till you get there.
Yeah, and then but once I got towed. And I got towed at 11:50, and I picked it up, after midnight, and they counted it 2 days.
Yep.
So it was $690 or some shit.
Yeah.
And it went around the corner. It was literally the closest I've ever been towed to where I had to pick it up.
So, here's a not funny thing about that. Let's imagine you're living paycheck to paycheck, and $600 is 3/4 of your rent.
Yeah. Debilitating.
What's that?
Debilitating.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're just not. You are then choosing: do I get the car back that gets me to work, or do I not pay my rent this month?
Or do I not eat? Or do I not? Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And maybe you just say, well, I guess I'm taking the bus. I need my house, so I'll take the bus to work, and they can have the car, I guess. Or maybe I can go get a cash advance loan in a couple days on my paycheck. And by the time you get there, you find out that the $600 tow bill over 4 days becomes a $1,600 tow bill. Because every day they keep it, it goes higher. Well, they will then eventually the city will auction your car off. Well, the Office of the Inspector General found out that this board in charge of auctions has been running for about 20 years with the same people on the board, with a vacant seat that the president of that board has not let been filled, and the other 3 seats are filled by buddies of his.
Yeah.
That they will have informal meetings, which means that, like, for a guy's night out, they'll call that the meeting that they're supposed to have that month in violation of the Open Meetings Act, which is not the most terrible violation that they could have done.
Right. I mean, like, I don't imagine that a lot of people were clamoring to see the board of auctions, like, go through their day to day. And I think the fact that they've run underneath this all for so long is indicative of that. Like, nobody has bothered to check. So
I feel like
should I have a public meeting if nobody inquires? I mean, like,
I did a review that ended up the sound was ruined, so I couldn't use it. I might redo it, but did you watch Bad Education, the Hugh Jackson movie?
Oh no, the one on HBO with
Yes.
Allison. No, it's been on my list.
So one of the underlying theories, like things about that movie, is that you see that, like, it starts out so small. It's like an accidental charge.
Yeah.
And then it grows and it grows. And that movie, by the way, is about the largest embezzlement in the history of the public school system.
Yeah.
But, like, basically that's what he says. He's like, I paid for a slice of pizza with the wrong card on a Friday night. And I said, well, on Monday, I'll make that right. And then Monday was busy. And I realized Monday night, no one even asked about it.
Yeah.
And then the next day I charged a bagel. And on Wednesday, nobody asked about it. And then it just escalates from there. I have a feeling that's how this went. It was just like, oh, we really should get somebody in that seat. And then, like, a month goes by, and it's like, oh,
we kind of like the crew we've been running with.
And like, we forgot about it in the last meeting. We'll just put it off another month. And then it's been 20 years.
Well, you see, whenever I make an argument about how there's potentials to streamline government, this is kind of what I'm getting at. The fact that if you found yourself in the situation where you left your car and you couldn't get it for a couple days and it was auctioned off, and then maybe you make some sort of request as to, like, what authority do I reach out to for this kind of restitution? Mm-hmm. You might get directed to them.
Maybe.
But there's a better than even chance that you'd probably get the runaround from a bunch of different agencies before you eventually find yourself there. It's like, oh, no, you don't deal with us. You deal with them. And then you keep going around until eventually you end up at the Board of Auctions.
Yeah, and I mean...
And then what are you supposed to do? Just, like, you meet some guy, and then it's just like, yeah, car was sold. Sorry.
Well, no, and see, that's the thing, though, because they're not in charge of the auctions. They're in charge of bidding out to the company who does the auction.
Oh, I know, but I'm saying, like,
sorry about your luck.
But, like... how would anyone ever figure it out? That's the point. Like, and the way that you're able to run with, like, an empty seat for a decade is because nobody can think to even inquire.
Yep.
So all these people who are, supposedly doing a job, are, collecting income and all this stuff. And, like,
you end up, you get real busy, and then you realize, oh man, it's been 2 months. We, by law, are supposed to have a meeting. And then one of them's like, we watched a football game, like, last Sunday. That was technically last month, and all of us were there. That's a quorum.
Yeah.
So we could just call that the meeting, and then you realize nobody checked, and nobody asked, like, well, you didn't book a room, you didn't have anybody there, no questions were taken. Like, nope. So now we never meet, or we only meet when we want to go hang out and have beers. So it's one of those creeping things. And the reason I really wanted to talk about that I said that was not the most egregious offense because the chairman of that board granted himself a no-bid contract over the vehicle auctions for the city of Baltimore.
Yeah.
And now he was able to do that because he already had a license for auctions, or his company has a license for auctions. So every car that is towed and then taken and sold by the city of Baltimore, this guy who gave himself a no-bid contract now makes money off of. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's real Baltimore, if you ask me. Anyway, but I brought that up because one of the candidates for mayor we had previously discussed might be the solution to that problem.
Yeah, I mean, so let's get into this here. First of all, most recent poll I saw released in the past week here, I think it was, from the Baltimore Sun and a couple other groups that work together on it, had, in this order, some of these are obviously margin of error and stuff like that, but Sheila Dixon at 18%, Mary Miller at 18%, Brandon Scott at 15%, Tharu Vignaraja at 11%, TJ Smith at 6%, Jack Young at 5%, 22 undecided, wouldn't say or someone else at 5%, and the margin of error was 4.9%.
So that means that undecided is currently about to win the mayor's race. So that's weird.
The leader in the clubhouse.
And Jack Young is about to be overtaken by the margin of error. So not good for Jack. But, well, let's just go through the candidates.
Yeah.
Is that how you want to go?
Yeah.
Go through the list? Okay.
I figured what we would do here is act as like a voter guide.
Okay.
Sort of allow us to sort of go through the candidates and make cases for or against, and who you think would be the voting block that would come out for them, and all that sort of stuff. So I guess let's start with Sheila, former mayor,
felon.
left in shame, not felon.
Oh, that's
actually.
right.
Yeah,
Former misdemeanor.
She avoided the felony to be able to run again. And she ran last time, narrowly losing to Catherine Pugh in what we know now is a problematic election.
Problematic. That's a good word for it. Yeah.
Problematic election-wise.
Yeah.
Campaign finance-wise, I guess we should say. I mean, Sheila has her support. And there's a lot of people who are ride or die Sheila no matter what. And it seems like it's a very consistent 18% just feels like the pocket of people in Baltimore who are like,
I'm down with Sheila.
Yeah. She did a good job. She, made a mistake. She's paid for it. More than anyone else, she's getting questioned about it all the time. She wouldn't do it again. Mm-hmm. We should trust her and let her go forward.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think she did like 22, 24% last time. So we're within the margin of error at 18. And I just feel like no matter what you tell them, you're never going to shake that base.
Yeah.
But it's also for her winning the seat.
I mean, I think they'd vote for somebody else if somebody else reached out to them.
Yeah.
The way that, I mean, the thing is, Sheila sort of lives with the faith-based community of Baltimore in a way that none of the other candidates have really ever been able to break into.
Yeah.
And usually amongst the people who run for mayor is one person who sort of has the faith community behind them. Preachers are very powerful political figures in Baltimore, and their congregations tend to vote in blocks. So if you are Sheila Dixon, who's been putting in the time with all these people for years while you're not allowed to run,
right?
And then you're the one who's been there the whole time. The much like the argument for Biden with the African American community is, well, we know him. He's been here a long time, and yes, he's not black. We would appreciate that, I'm sure, but we know that he has good. We'll get into that later.
Yes. But no, I think that you're never going to shake that voting block. The difficulty is in an election like this, she doesn't seem to be gaining any ground anywhere else either. However, with this many candidates, that block might be enough to win it for you.
Right.
If you can turn them out and get them to vote or get them to turn their ballots in.
Well, I mean, that seems to be a problem across the board, really. I mean, Mary Miller has jumped a lot in the last couple months here. And has really become a favorite by a lot of people. Like she's number one on a lot of people's lists. Yeah.
And she's the candidate that I wanted to bring up the Office of Inspector General report for. Yeah. Because go ahead, give us a background on Mary Miller.
Well, so she was a former T. Rowe Price executive, and she was in the Obama administration in the helping with the economic recovery. So point she always makes whenever corruption gets brought up, because literally everyone who's running for mayor other than her has some sort of hand to Baltimore city government in some way. She is being able to say, I was twice confirmed unanimously by the Senate. My finances check out. I'm a perfectly normal, non-corrupt person.
Yeah. I could be making millions in the private market, but I love Baltimore. I came back here. I'm choosing to do this. And from the Inspector General's perspective, I got put in charge of a pretty disastrous economy, and I played a part in digging it out. And a lot of that was finding the waste and figuring out how to change those policies. And that is what Baltimore needs. And, Corey has been talking about a take your medicine mayor. Yeah. Somebody who's in finance is the person who is not doing this for adoration.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see her. I don't get what's in it for her to get in and be corrupt. Yeah. Because her fall will just be worse than anyone else's if she's another one in the run for...
But more importantly, it ruins everything she did up to this point. Yeah. She had a life outside of Baltimore that would be ruined by it. Like Sheila Dixon has been Baltimore, Jack Young, Baltimore, Catherine Pugh, all Baltimore. But she's someone who went out in the world and did a lot of good work. Why would she come here and ruin that legacy by doing something in Baltimore that would mess that up? Yeah. But she also could have the opportunity to say, hey, I was mayor and I brought the things I learned at national government down to the mayorship. Maybe, hey, all of you, this is what we should do. This is noblesse oblige for us, where we could all make way more money in the private sector. Take 4-8 years, go to your city, the place you grew up, or the place that you've adopted since then.
Well, I mean, that's one of her concerns, is she's not a local
she's
per
not
se.
Yeah. But she's been here for 35, something like that, 35 years. So telling everyone, like, you've made your money, you've worked in the public sector, maybe for government, go back and work at the local level. Look how much good you can do. Yeah. I don't know. I have to say that there is a level of appreciation for that.
I think my concern with Mary Miller... and this is, none of these things that we say that are negative are said in slight. It's just like she's very clearly a smart and with it person, but I don't know if she has the personality that will make people fall in love with her. And like there was a like if you're a Schaefer or something like that, where you can combine a ability to get things done and an intellect in which to do it, along with the ability to convince people that it's a good idea.
O'Malley
did the same thing. But
I'm playing a rock band, but I also can get shit
done.
But
O'Malley was probably more on the I'm likable than I get shit done spectrum. But I'm saying Schaefer was probably a good mix between, like a good 50-50 of each.
Well, and O'Malley made it look like he could get shit done. Like, I'm going to make a blue ribbon commission and, know, and then nothing ever happens. Well, I'm at the governor's shop now. I can't really do anything about that.
Ed Norris, can you get these people out of my face?
I'm going to be mayor for 6 years, and then I'm going to bail out and go be governor. And when all those blue ribbon commissions wrap up, I'm gone. Sorry. Yeah.
I did like, just going back to Sheila for just a second, like she made some sort of slight at Jack Young during the debate. Yeah. And he responded with like, well, I'd have a whole lot more money to deal with if I didn't have to deal with your gun trace task force nonsense. Oh. And I was like, ooh, look at you, Jack Young, coming off the top rope. But yes, Mary Miller, by the way, was the Undersecretary for Domestic Finance and former acting Deputy Secretary of the Treasury. Yes. So definitely a nice track record there.
And both of those at the early part of the Obama administration, right when he became president and the economy tanked shortly thereafter, and then they were building out of the worst recession since the Great Depression. Well, that's not true. At the time, the worst recession since the Great Depression.
Well, one of the things I saw here too was in November 2011 was included on the New Republic's list of Washington's most powerful, least famous people. Yeah. So, she's sort of known as somebody who gets things done, but not necessarily a visible personality. Yeah. So, how much of Baltimore's problems need to be fixed by somebody who just knows how to fix them, and how much of it needs to be fixed by somebody who can inspire a little bit of trust in the public? Because, I mean, I feel like Jack Young is sort of following in the same, while not as accomplished and while I don't think he's as good as a
O'Malley, a Schaefer.
Or even Mary Miller in this particular field. It's just he doesn't have he falls on his feet so often because he just can't say the thing that helps get us through to the next moment. You know, like
he was good at council president, where everyone goes to the mayor and he's got time to get his reaction ready,
right?
And then he can react
and work
to what the
with a
mayor
group
said.
of people and stuff like that. But it's not quite the same as like, well, I'm not the one murdering people. Why are you coming at me? Like,
not the thing to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, the next candidate up is Brandon Scott, and here is something I said in the pre-show meeting, which is Brandon Scott's an idealist. He's a younger guy. He wants to make change. I don't know that Mary Miller doesn't want to do that. In fact, based on the work she's doing in the city, I would say she does.
Right.
My concern is, how do you pay for the things that you want to change about the city? And there's a couple of ways to do it. My concern is that with a young leftist idealist, I would say Brandon Scott's probably the closest to a Bernie in the mayor's race.
Yeah, I mean, there's no progressive candidate really, though. That's the problem.
Yeah. But closest to that, maybe you think about the good policies and not how is this going to affect the city 10 years from now when you have to pay the bill for that. But Mary Miller may not be as progressive on the things she wants to do because she's thinking we also have to dig out of this huge hole because people have been have been giving themselves from the public coffers for the last 50 years. And now we have to fix that and do these things at the same time.
Well, not only that, but fix a police department at the same time.
A lot of fixing.
One of my concerns with Mary Miller is that even though she is very accomplished, she doesn't. I don't know how accomplished she could be across things that she has had no experience doing. Like, is she going to be able to understand what is wrong with the police department and fix it? Or is she going to say, I have a commissioner who deals with fixing this? I
would say that the most brilliant people I know and the most brilliant executives are the ones who say, I know this. This is the thing I know. You're now suggesting something outside of this. I don't know. But what I do know is I can find somebody who can fix that.
Yeah.
And I don't care who it is, but I'm going to find the person, and their job is going to be to fix it. Now, we know that being police commissioner is not that, because taking a cop from another city doesn't fix the cops in this city.
But,
right. Maybe bringing in Michael, what's his name? Ex-Baltimore police officer.
Oh, Wood?
Michael A. Wood.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the answer. Or bringing in somebody who has reformed police elsewhere from outside.
I mean, generally speaking, I'm trusting of somebody who has a good intellect.
Yeah.
And I assume that they'll be able to figure out a way to do it and make it right. But it's just everything right now is about the pros and the cons of where you're going with this sort of thing. Going back to Brandon Scott, I think that he is, idealism wise, I think where Baltimore should be going.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I feel this way, and I don't know if it's fair, but I feel like that Brandon Scott has been part of sort of the Baltimore political machine for a while now. And even though he calls out indiscretions when he sees them, he's still part of the machine. And there's sort of a, when Sheila moved up to the mayor's office, once O'Malley left, there was sort of a like, well, Sheila's got to be, she's part of the machine, and she's just going to continue the machine when she's in the mayor's office, which she did.
Yeah.
And then when she stepped down and Rawlings Blake came up, there was like, oh, well, Rawlings is part of, Pete Rawlings' daughter, totally part of the machine. And then, Catherine Pugh the same way. Like, it just follows this legacy of hoping that somebody's going to come up and change things. But then when they actually get there, they're just part of the same old problem that we've had forever.
I mean, I think that
it's like I've been burnt so many times. Yeah. I can't shake it. Every girl has cheated on me, so I'm convinced that the next one will too. Like,
yes.
I feel like Brandon Scott he looks great, and I'm generally excited at the prospect of him being mayor, but at the same time, I just feel like 4 years from now, we're just going to get the Baltimore Sun thing about him resigning in disgrace, and, what did we learn? Like, what did we do?
And I can't say that wouldn't happen, but I imagine that, he and Ryan Dorsey are the two that kind of like throw themselves in together.
Yeah, they're mudruckers.
And they are the ones against the machine.
Yeah.
They embraced Kurt Cobain's call to become part of the machine and rot it from the inside. And I don't know if you've seen pictures I know Corey has for the viewers at home, pictures of Ryan Dorsey, who looks like a guy who owns a tattoo shop, and he's actually on the Baltimore City Council, which is very strange. But
getting you know one of my number one distinguishers of who I'm going to vote for, who is the Fraternal Order of Police not giving money to. That's the they've pumped so much money into Rain Pryor over Ryan Dorsey and that council seat. And Theroux just got a huge check from the FOP for campaign stuff.
Float that
up.
campaign.
It's like the kiss of death.
It should be the kiss of death for everyone.
It'd be like if Catherine Pugh had an interview and she's just like, you know who I think would be really good at this job is Brandon Scott. And it's just like, oh, why'd you do that? Why'd you tell them me?
Yeah,
yeah. Now I have to have some press conference going, you suck.
Listen, just so it's clear, I didn't ask for an endorsement. I don't accept the endorsement. But yeah, TJ.
I'm glad that convicted felons think of me kindly enough, but they can't vote. So unfortunately.
So Theroux, we've talked about a lot. TJ Smith, though, has got to be in that too, right? Like, he's a former police officer and not a, like, I hate the police one.
What bothers me so much about TJ Smith is that he knows where the bodies are buried.
Yeah.
And I feel like the winning strategy this whole time would have been, I know where the bodies are buried.
Yep.
I can fix this. But he too, my concerns about Brandon Scott being another company man when he moves up to the big desk is much the same as my concerns of TJ Smith. If he's going to still be a police department apologist, then what are the chances that he's going to be able to articulate what is needed to change for the future of the police department?
And I don't think he's offered that there is anything wrong.
Yeah, I think he just makes the same argument of like, oh, it's a lot of good cops, the bad ones have been rooted out. We know, but I mean, like, nobody says it's better. Like, there's not a single person who was getting stopped multiple times a year in 2004 that's not getting stopped the same amount of times now.
Yep,
it's not the police who feel like they are allowed to operate with no rules and questionable morals and a warrior lifestyle that is at like the exact worst thing for what Baltimore needs at this moment. And I haven't heard TJ Smith make any kind of point to listen, I know what to do. I
know these guys. I know
these guys. I know how to fix it. I have police experience, so you can trust me to fix it. It just feels like, it'd literally be like if Catherine Pugh was running again right now. It's just like, I was found guilty, but I'm doing it anyway because fuck it. Like, I'd be like, well, why are you voting for that?
Yeah.
Why? Who is hearing her being in the race and go, I need a part of that? If you were telling me a former top cop in the Baltimore Police Department was running for mayor because he was so dissatisfied with how the police department was run and he was going to change everything because he knew what was right, then I would listen to that. I would listen to what he has to say on that. If he wants to continue what's been going on and not working, then I don't understand.
What are you voting for then?
Yeah, what am I getting?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just voting for police interest at this point. I mean, like, it seems like the public trust in the police, I think it was like 6% or something like that.
It's not what you want to stand on for the election.
There's no issue in the world that is seen as one-sided as Baltimore's trust in its own police department right now. Like,
and it's really a missed opportunity on his part. Like, I would feel like if you're advising him, you have to say, listen, you need to cut from the Baltimore Police Department and just say, I know them. I know how to get the muzzle on them and get this under control.
If you want to say, if TJ Smith wants to have a press conference where he's like, listen, the Bulls were a really good team, but they didn't have the person who knew how to fix it.
Yeah.
I'm Phil Jackson. I fix it. I know what needs to be done.
Yeah.
I know how all these parts can work. If they're all put in the right way, you have to trust me. But I mean, like...
Oh, I also know what we need to get rid of because I was there.
But I mean, like, the fact that nobody is willing to take any kind of responsibility for anything that the Baltimore Police Department has been, like, proven guilty of. Like, that's the part that really, like, astonishes me. Like, we have, the Gun Trace Task Force. We have police officers who are selling drugs in uniform with service weapons in parking lots of Baltimore Police Department headquarters. We have... You can't go 2 months without some sort of story about, some young person running from the cops and then being told to eat pavement and then being thrown every single racial obscenity that you could possibly get.
Yep.
And then being arrested and then going to jail for petty nonsense that the officer planted on them. Like,
Yep.
this is not an unusual story. And the fact that nobody seems to even recognize that, like, that's still happening is kind of galling to me in a way.
Well, and I was going to say the missed opportunity by a former police officer, Jack Young, also the missed opportunity of being the cancel rent and fuck the police candidate. Like, why wouldn't you do that?
I would have leaned into it once the billboard went up. I mean, 6%. You gotta do something
at that point, you know. And I mean, I skipped over Theroux. I just feel like we've talked about him a lot. Everyone knows your position on Theroux. So,
I mean, I just feel like he kept bringing up the point of, if you don't want somebody who's going to be pushing for safer streets and lower crime, then don't vote for me. And he's trying to push this, like, pretty smart on the part of his campaign as, I'm the only one who cares about this. I was a prosecutor. I know how this works. I'm not part of this dog and pony show. I'm from the outside.
Also, the accountability. If it doesn't get fixed, it's my fault.
Right.
It's my job to do that.
And he was very firm on saying that he wants to be more of a leader than Baltimore mayor has been in the last couple iterations, which I can appreciate. But the fact is that, much like if you look into anything that Trump says, you go so far and then you realize, oh, Theroux's a complete fucking hypocrite on the other side of this. Like, oh, I want to do what's right. I want to make sure that, I've seen the bad side of the legal system. I don't want to make sure somebody goes through that car wash for 20 years on some nonsense bullshit. And then all of a sudden he's going over and saying Adnan is a 100% guilty murderer who should never get another trial and everything like that.
We are going to appeal it once the Court of Special Appeals has said we're going to overturn it.
I think there should be accountability in the police department, but also while you're talking to me, I'd like you to turn off your body camera. There's a lot of Theroux with questionable ethics throughout this whole thing. Yeah. And if it's not him personally, I feel like the Supreme Court has argued that money is speech. So look at who has been speaking on his behalf. Yeah. Look at the Fraternal Order of Police, who gives him a lot of money, and all the other entities which are really interested in Theroux becoming mayor. Mm-hmm. Why would they be interested? There's a lot of corporate wealth that's going into Theroux's campaign. Like, where are we getting from? Yeah. This feels like he's just trying to ingratiate himself to be. If anyone is going to be the corrupt next mayor,
that's the guy.
That's Theroux. Yep. He's 100%. There's no way you can tell me that his batting average on corruption isn't going to be higher than anybody else's.
I was going to say, Brandon Scott's the question mark. Theroux is the exclamation point. Like, I don't know if Brandon Scott's going to continue this,
because corruption comes in little bits and pieces. Yeah. It's not like, tomorrow you get to sell your book and make a bunch of money from the University of Maryland. It builds up slowly from
a couple of gift cards.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I just want to buy you dinner or something like that. It's like, well, I don't see what's wrong with the with the head of T. Rowe Price wanting to buy me dinner tonight. It's little choices that start adding up to bigger things, and that's why my spidey sense is so off on Theroux. Personally,
now, I want to talk about other little choices that build up to bad things. But before we do that, what's your overall take? This is the last episode before the ballots are due back in.
Yeah.
What's your call on the race for mayor?
I think it's going to be very close. I don't imagine that we're going to have a firm answer the next Tuesday we podcast kind of thing. It'll probably still be to be decided a little bit, but I do think that the first tier that we were considering, which is Dixon, Miller, and Brandon Scott, it's probably going to be one of those three people. Something tells me that the quarter of the people who are undecided are basically going to find themselves in either the Mary Miller or the Scott camp and eventually ride them to victory. Yeah. But there's so much that's unknown about how the race is actually going to, how actual voting is going to happen with mail-in ballots and stuff like that. Are Sheila's contingent going to be enough to fend off people who might not vote because it's a mail-in system now, or they don't know how to, like, there's a growing distrust. I mean, Baltimore, for being a left-leaning city, does have a lot of the public distrust that the Republican side has as well, where there's a lot of people in West Baltimore who are very nervous about the idea of sending in a ballot to the government because they feel like
my name on this and send it to you.
Yeah, and like there's something afoot here.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't going to get counted. They're going to see my address and just toss it. Yeah. And like, why do I even bother sending it in and like participating in your sham? Like, and that comes from a lot of people feeling like they haven't been listened to in their entire lives. So it makes sense. But
I also think Sheila benefited last time from a hard push the last few days of just getting out and knocking on doors and just being like, hey, by the way, you know me, mea culpa, I did my time.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to move out. She doesn't have the opportunity for that, but neither does Brandon Scott, who, as the youngest guy, I think, in the race, had the opportunity to be like, hey, I'm out here. I've been working in this community. You know me. And he hasn't had that the entire race, but he definitely doesn't have it the last few days.
Well, I mean, the two things that are beneficial for Brandon Scott and Jack Young, at the very least, is they have to go in on city business from time to time.
Yeah.
They're essential in the fact that they're running the government. So maybe they're doing more work from home than they normally would. But at some point, you got to show up at the hall. You got to actually do something, So,
and you run into Sun reporters there.
Yeah, they're asking questions. And, one thing leads to another. You got an interview with Jane Miller and, Brandon Scott's on the news. And it's... I don't know. In my heart, if I were voting, I think I would go with Brandon Scott. It would be it'd be a tough choice between Brandon Scott and Mary Miller, but I think I'd go with Brandon Scott.
Is he the take your medicine mayor that you've been calling for the last two elections?
I think Mary Miller is the take your medicine mayor, but I honestly feel like we've kind of evolved past the just take your medicine at this point, and we need somebody who is going to be able to set Baltimore in the direction that it needs to go for the next millennium. Like,
we're looking for the Kennedy.
We're looking. I mean, more or less, we're looking for a rainmaker who changes everything. And
a Roosevelt, a Kennedy.
If you're asking me for who that person is and the people who are running here, to me, Brandon Scott's the only person who makes even a modicum of sense. Like, I wouldn't say he's a Kennedy figure, but I'm saying if you're asking who's the most likely of these people to be that person, then I would put it high. I don't know. I think either Miller or Scott would be beneficial in the long run, assuming, neither one of them decides to enrich themselves in this office.
Right. Yeah. Now, and I would say I go the opposite. I think Brandon Scott is young enough that he can do some good work on the council for the next 4 years.
Get another crack at it,
because I don't think that lifetime in Baltimore politics is what Mary is looking for.
Yeah.
She is looking to take her particular skill set and help the place that she has invested herself in. And 1 term or 2, clean up the corruption, get the books balanced and moving forward in the right direction.
I mean, I think to me, voting for Mary Miller is about, I feel confident that she would be able to structurally change, at least financially, the way that the Baltimore city government is sort of operated. And for that would be a humongous change going forward to whoever she hands it off to. If it's Brandon Scott in 8 years, then I think he's in a better position to do more good based off of what she did earlier. The question is, though, if nobody listens to you, it's hard to get the message out,
Kennedy would not be Kennedy without Eisenhower 2 terms before him.
Right.
Stabilize the world, stabilize the situation, make everything just be okay. Then your dreamer gets to take off. And now Mary gives the city hope again that things could be good.
Yeah.
And then your guy coming in and being like, let me tell you how we're going to make it good together, resonates a lot more than things are pretty terrible and I'm going to tell you how we're going to be great together. That's your doubt. Your doubt comes from the fact that it hasn't been level for a long time.
See, but so I guess if I'm looking for a long-term political change, I think what we're really looking for is someone like FDR.
Yeah.
Because, we're at the lowest of the low right now. And Hoover has fucked shit up. And it's not his fault. just didn't know how to. He's Jack Young. He's way in over his head. He doesn't understand what's going on.
Things got bad. It got tossed in his lap.
He's trying to do his best, but it's just not working out. We need the idealist. We need the person who comes in with all the things that sort of sets us in the direction that we're going to go. And yes, sometimes his idealism goes too far. Sometimes he pushes for things that he shouldn't be doing.
15 Supreme Court justices.
Yeah, that stands in mind. But like, I feel like at the end of the day, he was able to get what he wanted to get done because not only was he brilliant in how he thought about how government could work, but he was also brilliant in the way that he could inspire confidence in the people.
This makes me wish for vice mayors.
Yeah, I mean, like, I wouldn't, if it was Brandon Scott who won and he's just like, hey, Mary Miller has decided to come in and be my chief of staff, basically, for this whole thing, and she's going to help clean this shit up. I mean, like, I don't see why there wouldn't be a place for Mary Miller in city government to help change things, even if she lost. I mean,
not in Sheila Dixon's government.
I mean, Scott's going to be there regardless as city council president probably until, I mean, he's still in, right?
And the question is, if Jack loses, does he go back? Because
I don't think so. I think as soon as you left, you left.
Oh, all right. Well, then, yeah. I mean, I guess he'd have to wait and run for a seat again.
Yeah. I forget how that works exactly.
Well,
but anyway,
nonetheless, though, so FDR, to your point, had this guy named Aldrich, and I can't remember his last name. I want to say James, Aldrich James. And FDR was like, I want to put everybody back to work and have a chicken in every pot. You figure that out.
Yeah.
And then he's the one who figured out the works progress administration and how are we going to get everyone back to work countrywide? How are we going to organize farmers to get produce from the country into the cities and make sure people have food to eat? He was the functional guy. And that was his running mate in his first term. Then it was like, all right, we figured that out. Now I'm going to switch out my VP the second time and get a guy who can do the next thing that I need.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're talking about. The problem is there is no vice mayor. It's the one person in the seat. And that's why I would argue get the person there to set it up. The John the Baptist to the Messiah who comes afterward. The Eisenhower to the Kennedy who can come in and just like set the table for you. Get everything stable, set the table and move on.
I mean, if we're talking about moves that could be made in the last week to shore up some form of a base.
Yeah.
I think any kind of strategic partnership between Miller and Scott makes a lot of sense. If either one of the two of them says like, hey, listen, we realize that if one of the two of us wins, we're going to need the other one in some sort of form or fashion. And we want to make it clear to whoever is voting, like, we're being respectful about it. We want to give the due to the person who wins, but the other person is going to be part of, Scott's going to be council president or he's going to be mayor. And then maybe Mary comes in and helps Scott, or, you can make it seem like.
Turns out there's a lot of people taking on the take in the city government. Maybe I put you on a couple boards.
How'd you like to be on the board of estimates?
To be fair, though, if I'm Mary, I'm like, hey, listen, I would love to work with Brandon if he continued his position as council president and I was the mayor.
If he isn't indicted for some reason.
But so that's a lot of Maryland news. What do you say? Just lightning round everything that's left?
Yeah, that's fine.
So I was going to say little decisions that make a big difference. That's the transition to a lot of people said, I've been trapped inside. I just want to get out just me get out this weekend or Friday, I guess, and just get a little fresh air. I'm going to go to the beach, just me. And, 1 million people made that decision that is now possibly going to have vast consequences in Ocean City.
Yeah.
There was a tweet that went out of a video of the boardwalk. I believe it is again somewhere in between Thrashers and that.
It looks that area of town,
and it is just shoulder to shoulder, no masks, beach wear, no gloves, no masks. Just my skin crawls thinking about it because I'm just like if I walked towards the boardwalk and saw that, I would just get back in my car and go back home.
I mean, I think the problem is now that the conspiracy nature of part of our population these days is unconvinced of anything.
Yes.
That, I mean, it's one of those things that if there was a scientific report tomorrow where it's like, if you wear blue, then there's a 50% chance that you're going to die. And, clearly this doesn't make sense because that isn't how science works in real life. No. But I'm just throwing out an example.
Work. But yes.
Throwing out a hypothetical.
Sure.
But I'm saying if scientists said 100% we figured out blue is responsible for death, and if you wear blue, then you're going to be more likely to die, then there would be some people who would just show up the next day wearing blue.
Just to say it.
Just because.
Yep.
And they're like, I didn't die. I wore this shirt yesterday and I didn't die.
Yeah,
and
they said 50%, idiot. That's how probability works.
Someday you're going to die in that shirt, and there's not going to be anybody who said, you know what? We should remember that Billy was very anti-shirt, and maybe we should not listen to what he had to say. It's starting to make me worry that any chance that we had of civility in the future is out the window. Well, there was a thought I had that maybe when Trump left, like if Biden won and Trump came in, or Trump left, together. And we sort of went back to how politics used to be, and of course it'll be turned up 10 or 15% more than it ever had been before because we've broken so many norms in the Trump era. Mm-hmm. But like I figured at some point we'd get back to some sort of sense of 5% of crazy nutballs on the internet.
Instead of the 55%.
Yeah, the 50.
Right now.
The 50% is kind of bothering me. So
yeah. Well, and speaking of 50%, half of Fox News viewers think COVID is a conspiracy.
Yeah.
All in order for the Gates Foundation to inject them with a transponder, which is essentially the mark of the beast because Gates is the Antichrist, and that will force them to be paid in cryptocurrency and be tracked at all times.
Y'all got any of these?
Yeah.
I don't know what to. I held up my phone for people who are listening on the audio version. I got
into an argument with somebody on Instagram today, and I was like, hey, they don't have to inject me with a chip. I carry around my transponder with me every day. I'll go back to my apartment if I forget my transponder.
Mark Zuckerberg knows where you are all the time.
And, it's one of the things
he didn't get elected, and nobody voted for him for president of Facebook or anything like that. It's just information you give up when you become part of the community.
It's the global community.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
There are steps you can take if you want to live a life where nobody tracks you.
Yeah.
But the problem is that you have to inconvenience yourself so much to make a point of it. And at the end of the day, what are you really proving at that?
Yeah.
I have for a long time on this podcast talked about various levels of privacy and how important it is to me and how I feel we should be fighting for it more. But I still carry my phone around.
Yep.
I still do the things that,
because it's not 1998 and I need to be reached by people.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, I just assumed one day, someone our age or someone of our vintage, whatever age they eventually become when they get elected to some form of power.
Yeah.
We'll say hey, y'all know this is fucked up, right? And then it'll just change.
We're going to undo this. Yeah.
We'll be fine. I'm comforted right now by the fact that no matter how big of a conspiracy you think the government is out to get you, the process of being able to figure it out is not there.
Yeah.
If I say, in my apartment, I plan on killing someone tonight. I don't do that. I'm just saying as a hypothetical.
I do that for Corey all the time.
But he walks up to my assistant. He's like, hey, I'm going to kill somebody tonight. Just see if the police show up. There's not a, people set out pipe bombs to various prominent Democratic figures.
Yeah,
and they got to them before the fact that, anything was known. That person could have been found out at any point if somebody from the government was live listening to everyone's wiretaps all the time. But unfortunately, there's not as many people who work in the government as there are citizens in this country.
Yeah, that'd be a strange
the method
dynamic.
of being able to figure out when somebody has some sort of conversation and whether or not it's relevant to a probable event is not there. So the idea that the government is taking a lot of our metadata and putting it into a file is not great.
No.
But also at this point, there's nothing they could do about it. if people really want to do something bad, they can figure out a way to do it. That's basically how this works.
Listen, collect my metadata. I scream into this mic several times a month to bring out the guillotines. Ain't nothing in the metadata that's going to be worse than that. All right. But I wanted to go quickly through the points that I made to a person in Instagram and hope that it gets through to some of you that it didn't get through to them. Gates Foundation does not, in fact, do any research. They pay public and private universities to do research.
Yeah.
MIT, Stanford, Oxford, they are doing research paid by the Gates Foundation, yes, but they have no control over the research. They're doing that. 2, we carry transponders. Why would they put it under your skin? 3, if they did offer one under my skin so I didn't have to carry around this fucking block that, by the way, I keep dropping and breaking, I would actually really enjoy that. If I could wear Google Glass, but a contact, and have an implant on my jawbone that I could hear and talk.
Yeah, like a bone conductor.
Yeah, and it's something I could just tap to get in places. I would absolutely do it. And there would be no mark of the beast nonsense, because in the Bible, they talk about forcing people to do it. I would fucking volunteer. I want to be beta testing it. And the last part of that was they're going to force you to be paid in cryptocurrency. God bless. If my boss offered to pay me in cryptocurrency, I would jump at the opportunity. And then the next April 15th, when the government asked me, hey, how much did you make last year? I'd be like, about that. I don't know. 15,000? Sound right? Sure. I'll pay taxes on that because cryptocurrency cannot be tracked.
Yeah.
And every time I need to buy something, I would move it if I couldn't pay in cryptocurrency to PayPal and pay via PayPal, and then only report the very little bit of income that I'd have. So you see how dumb this is? None of that makes sense, and it all requires that the government and private businesses be in a vast conspiracy when the White House was occupied by President Trump, and it was only filled with people who were his hardcore supporters, and they could not stop leaks from going out to the press. And you are alleging that there's a vast conspiracy that no one knows about. Okay.
Well, the going to that, it's like you remember when the Republicans had the executive and both houses of Congress and they couldn't get anything done.
Yeah.
Like I just all this thought about like being able to like one person, Bill Gates, who's not associated with anything, like,
and who doesn't direct the foundation, by the way.
Yeah,
he writes them checks.
Yeah,
that's it. And then goes out and tries to get other people.
World's richest man wants to give away 99% of his wealth. God damn, like.
By the way, having trouble. You can't give it away fast enough.
Yeah.
Just keeps making more of it. Capitalism's working just fine, everybody. Yeah.
Bill Gates wakes up every morning. He's just like, oh, another 48 million. I got to figure out a way to get rid of.
Richer yesterday than I was today. Or richer today than I was yesterday. Also, side note, I don't mind people who enjoy religion. If you find comfort in it, if it gives your life meaning. It certainly has given my father, kept him out of the bottle, saved his life, and gave him direction, and he has then passed that on to probably hundreds of thousands of people. If you've seen the movie Big Fish, I imagine that my father's funeral is going to be much like the end of Big Fish, where people just shoot the fuck up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But if your pastor is telling you, don't get medicine and don't follow the government because faith is going to heal you, don't listen to him.
Yeah.
And I hope that when he then dies from the virus he says faith is going to protect you from, that it further tells you that you should not listen to him. Wear your masks, wear gloves, social distance. Don't go to Ocean City. Except for everyone in Dundalk and Essex, you should absolutely go to Ocean City and lick everything. The boards, the seats,
the videos. I shared a video with Rob before we started this podcast where it's entitled Americans like coughing on people and spitting on people and like I'm not going to wear my mask and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I just don't get it. Like,
I've crossed the border. I've become this communist. I hate this country. I hate everything about this country.
I just don't get it. Like, why? It's like fuck traffic lines.
Yeah.
Like I thought I was born in a free country. I'm allowed to drive wherever I want. Like, yeah, but like, can't you just this once like not be that person? Like,
no, they can't. They've never been told no in their life, and now they're being told no, and they don't let the woman who wore a mask as a bikini, and like art piece. I hate all of you. Not you people who are listening, but look to your left.
You're
and
the
your
good
right.
ones.
Yeah, look to your left and your right at work or at home. I hate those people. All of those people are the worst, and we would be better off without them.
Well, not all of them, but
Most of them.
a good degree of them.
Listen, if you look over and you see someone who is under the age of 18, there's still hope. Tell them to listen to this podcast. It's completely child safe. It won't be a problem at all.
Nobody tell YouTube.
Okay, true lightning round.
Yes.
Here we go. News. Updates for you as of today just happened. The RNC, meaning the Republican National Committee, not this guy, is suing the state of California and Governor Gavin Newsom because of the mail-in ballots. Because Newsom had announced that he was going to mail a ballot to every voter in California, and the RNC is alleging voter fraud.
Okay.
So I want to bring this up next week because I'm going to read the brief and I want to see the mental leap that it takes to go, we are mailing every voter a ballot, and somehow that is voter fraud.
I like how the only vote by mail we've had in California so far was a Republican winning.
Yeah.
Like, we're okay with that one, but
not all the
other ones.
Yeah, now we got the other ones we got to worry about. Hey, listen, there's a lot of white people in that vote. Ain't so white the rest of the state.
We're going to send 20 goons down, try and get rid of fucking what's-his-face in Hollywood.
Nip it in the bud. All right. The New York Times did...
Adam Schiff. That's what I was looking for. Yeah.
New York Times did a moving cover where they listed the entire cover above and below the fold was just names of victims. And
1,000 of them.
Yeah, not all of them, not even a high percentage of them. I think we are nearing 80,000 dead.
We're at 100,000 dead.
Oh,
so it's 1% of the people who've died.
I'm pretty sure that was the estimate for us to reach in August. I wonder what happened. And on that day, of course, the president went to the Rose Garden. He met with his coronavirus task force. He came out with a strong plan on how
hasn't been sleeping, hasn't been eating, hasn't been doing
working. That is it. He did have McDonald's brought in. It's fast food.
He's got to eat.
He's got to eat something.
He's got to stop at some point to eat.
So he completely planned out, and he laid out a very clear and concise plan for the rest of the year and how we were going to defeat this enemy.
Oh, you know what? No, I'm sorry. I think we read that wrong. He actually golfed instead.
Oh, 18. Well, yeah.
Went to Virginia to hit a couple balls.
As a reminder, his number one comment towards Obama was whenever Obama went golfing, he mentioned he went golfing instead of acting like a president.
Yeah.
We are in the midst of a crisis. 100,000 Americans dead. We lost 52,000 men in Vietnam. That means we are about to double the number of dead in Vietnam.
We spent a considerable amount of time on the podcast today talking about a city where 300 people die a year from murder. And that is a very bad number.
That's a bad number.
Yeah. For a city of that size, and to have 100,000 people dead in this amount of time is not a great number either. And
I'm trying to think, but the number of people murdered in Baltimore every year is still less than the number of Americans dying every day from coronavirus.
Yeah.
And the president went golfing. And listen, I understand he needs to take a break. Okay, I would understand that he might need to take a break if I saw him in the Situation Room all day, every day, banging down stats. Where are we going? What are we doing?
Yeah.
I'm on the phone with Johnson & Johnson.
If he's handling things on the golf course while he's just trying to get a little leisure,
yeah,
like I guess I can understand, but
I ain't seen him. I ain't seen him doing a lot of work.
What just fascinates me is that, like, I feel like I don't golf as it is, but like even something that I love. Like, if somebody was just like, hey, if you're going to be president, you can't go to karaoke for a while, I'd just be like, all right, well,
president.
I'll figure out a way.
Yeah.
Figure out a way to be president just all the time instead. Like,
you know what we do? We don't go out for karaoke.
I can quietly sing in my room from time to time and then go
pull
into
up
the Rose Garden. Yeah.
Pull up the lyric videos on YouTube. Here we go. I don't.
Well, it's not all just golfing here. He's also spending time saying that Joe Scarborough needs to be investigated for murder.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And by the way, I am concerned. The Scarborough comment was before they called him out for golfing.
Yeah, I believe so.
So my question is, it's not what else is out there? Because we only know he tries to shift the focus when there's something else going on.
Well, he's been getting in this little pissing contest with Joe Scarborough for a couple years now. So I think he's just particularly wound up at the moment.
Yeah.
He feels like he needs to express this, but I mean, like, anytime, we haven't gotten into the whole Obamagate nonsense that he's been trying to
I refuse to get into it. There is no thing. There's no such thing. There is no Obamagate.
Yeah. But I'm saying, like, this is just another thing that, like, rather than us talking about 100,000 people dead, him golfing, we're talking about Joe Scarborough instead. So,
But just as a reminder, so you don't get distracted, 100,000 Americans dead. That is nearly double the loss of American life in Vietnam over the course of 12 years, 58 to 74. So 72, 58 to 72. How many years is that? 14? 14 years in Vietnam, 52,000. 4 months of a Trump presidency. I almost said pregnancy. 4 months of a Trump presidency.
During the age of Corona.
100,000. Anyway. Let's skip down. Joe Biden. Some news leak this week about his vice presidential picks. It looks like it's going to be a woman.
Well, he said it's going to be a woman.
Okay.
So everyone that all the short list has been pretty well known. A lot of the women who were running against him in the primary are all considered.
Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Is she on the list?
Well, I'm sure she is, but
I heard she wasn't.
Oh, well, whatever.
Apparently she may have said some unkind things to him or about him during the primary, and
during the first debate,
yes. So she is not on the list.
Okay.
Probably the most. And listen, I hate Kamala Harris, but if I want somebody who's going to be capable of doing the job one heartbeat away, I'm not picking.
I mean, there's a part of I like the idea of having a vice president who I feel will kneecap somebody.
Yeah.
Which is nice, and I think Kamala can do that.
Mm-hmm.
But after seeing Elizabeth Warren take down Bloomberg in the primary, I feel like that was a way nastier takedown than Kamala of Joe early on.
It was a little early. Kamala didn't want to come out firing too hard. I mean, what is she, a police officer? Anyway, so the name escapes me now. Minnesota. Klobuchar.
Yeah.
Why?
Because she's a prominent name, and they get to say that they were examining her.
Yeah.
I don't think that she really. I mean, like, if you're going to try and get that Midwest woman vote, then I think Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, is the more attractive option. I still think, to me, anything that isn't Stacey Abrams will feel a little weak.
And
because
guess who's not on the list?
Stacey Abrams?
Stacey Abrams, not on the list.
Not on the list yet. We don't know what the list is. That's the problem. Like, we're trying to figure out the list.
So there have been several confirmations of vetting. Governor Whitmer is one.
Yep.
There is a congressman from that represents Orlando, Florida. That's 2.
Mm-hmm.
There's a congresswoman who represents a district in Ohio. That's 3.
But I mean, like, right now, it benefits these people who profile is not as hot to
say they're being vetted.
Because.
But what did those three?
If Amy Klobuchar's name gets out there as a potential VP pick, and CNN does 15 minutes talking about how she would be such an inspired choice, then maybe the public conversation of it's got to be Amy. Yeah. I heard Chris Cuomo talking about Amy Klobuchar being potential vice president. It can't be anyone but her.
Should not be Amy. Just so that's clear.
Well, I know, but I'm saying, like, this is how her camp is going to work to try and make her the most
appealing
candidate possible. Yeah.
But governor of Michigan, congresswoman from Ohio, congresswoman from Florida, also I believe a senator from New Hampshire. What do those 4 things have in common?
I mean, swing states
all swing states
other than New Hampshire.
New Hampshire went for Trump last time.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's gonna.
It's about winning back a state.
Yeah.
By the way, you know where else you could win back a state? Georgia.
Yeah.
Stacey Abrams, and also probably North Carolina along with it. Virginia again, just with having Stacey Abrams.
To me, that's the part that, like, there's actual talk of a Democrat winning the Senate seat in North Carolina. Yeah. Now, it's Burr who's being fucking hammered all over the place, but it's still a Democrat. It's Doug Jones getting the Alabama seat. Like, this is the first break in a potential new version of the South, which might be coming together over the next couple
going back
elections.
To the Democrats.
Yeah, and
we didn't even have to lynch anybody. It's weird.
Georgia was as solid red as it got a decade ago, and Stacey Abrams came within some very unfair, unkind play from becoming governor of that state. So,
and you know what else she did?
Brian Kemp's.
She shared her organizing. She shared her entire organization.
Yeah.
With anyone who wanted to run for a Democratic seat.
And not only that, she didn't say like, like I concede or anything like that. She's like, Brian Kemp stole this election. Now I'm going to dedicate the next couple months of my life to making sure nobody else can do the same. Join me, Stacey Abrams. Fuck everybody.
Yes.
Welcome to the Stacey Abrams Fuck Everybody podcast. This is Stacey Abrams.
By the way, I've been watching, I know you have as well, History 101.
Yeah.
The list of countries who have had a female leader in the top seat is long. Western democracies. Yeah. There's probably 40 Western democracies, and 15 of them have had women leaders. And of those 15, I believe...
Really good ones, too.
Yeah. I believe 12 of the 15 have actually elected more than one over the course of time. Name the country at the top of the list, not on that list.
United States of America?
United States of America still cannot find its way to do that. Has not even elected the second highest seat in the land. I suppose the third highest seat, but that's elected internally, not by the people. So,
right.
I
mean,
yeah.
There have been plenty of women who are capable and deserving of such an honor for many years. But the
how about the
inherent sexism of the way that the country has operated for the entirety of my lifetime and far beyond that has not made it a viable path going forward.
Imagine if Shirley Chisholm had won in 68, had won the nomination in 68.
Yeah.
And then gone up against Richard Nixon. Was it Nixon in 68? Was I right about that?
Yeah.
Yes, he did go. She did run. Nixon did run in 68.
Yeah. I don't think that's the right election though. Was she running against Kennedy?
Yep. No, Kennedy was running against Nixon in 60.
Oh,
Remember,
that's right. Yeah.
He was a VP in 60. And
right.
Kennedy went twice.
Yeah.
Hubert Humphrey was 68.
Yeah, because it was LBJ
convention.
going down.
Yeah.
Contested stepping down.
Imagine how everything would be different if Shirley Chisholm had won at least the nomination by the Democrats in 68.
Yes,
not that they would have won the election.
I know, but I mean, like, the problem is that you do all this, like, well, if this thing happened, then maybe this doesn't happen, but you don't know how that works either, because I would argue that if you're talking about, like, a take-your-medicine presidency, then Richard Nixon would have been one to consider, because he, unlike anybody else at that time, understood how the Asia-Pacific area needed to be handled. Mm-hmm. And yes, he had his own problems that were separate from his ability to recognize how geopolitical forces play.
Yeah.
But at that time, we really kind of needed someone like him who had a better understanding of what was going on in the situation. And even though a lot of the decisions didn't work out, like, I'm not saying bombing Cambodia and Laos was a great idea, but opening up to China was a step that got started because Nixon had an understanding of how to triangulate the diplomacy into a relationship with.
Did you get to that episode of History 101 yet?
No.
Oh, just wait.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So
is it the China one? Because I started it.
Yes, China one. Yeah, that's basically the beginning of the end for the American worker.
But I'm saying, like, everything has downsides. But I'm saying at that exact moment in time, if you said, hey, we're going to get a president who really knows what's going on in that region and might be able to open up communication to that area of the world and then maybe make us a safer place in the future, then everyone signed up for that.
True.
The concerns about Nixon were...
Alternatively, out of Vietnam 6 years earlier, Equal Rights Amendment, increasing rights for workers, daycare provided by the national government.
I'm not saying that there aren't great things that I could foresee with an alternate future. I'm just saying that it's hard to say that all the good would happen just because this, she was elected, and that you can't unwrap that whole.
I agree.
Yeah,
I do agree with it. I will say I don't know if everyone has, this person has listened this far along, but I really hope that there is a young black female screenwriter who does either the Shirley Chisholm story, because that just really needs to be told.
Mm-hmm.
Or the alternate history version of that story where she does win.
Yeah.
And basically...
we could just play out the rest of elections from that point on.
200 years in the future, Star Trek. That's what happens. Just to prove Corey wrong. Show me how we get Star Trek because Chisholm's elected in 68. The last thing... seems weird to transition from that to this, but
it's one of those weird things. Like you never know how things are going to turn out. Like imagine if somebody from the future just shows up and they're just like, "Oh man, thank God you guys elected Trump," and it's just like, "What do you mean? What? I'm sorry, go on." And then it's just like, "Well, I mean, like all the things that he did led to the great, the great society on the other side. Like if it wasn't for the total bottoming out of America, then we would never have gotten here." And it's
listen.
Wow. I mean, I didn't think of it like that.
Without Carter, we would have never had Reagan. So there's always that.
Everyone was just going to kill themselves up until this point, and then it all changed with Trump. And then eventually, some people, were excused from society, but there was plenty of people who were left. That
super weird. Just all of a sudden, this guy showed up in Dallas Fort Worth, and like 100,000 people showed up, and they just burned everything all the way to the ocean, and life got a lot better.
Weird.
But last point. Let's just wrap on this because I really want to beat up on Joe Biden as much as possible because fuck him. This week, Joe Biden made an appearance on The Breakfast Club, hosted by Charlemagne.
Charlemagne the God.
Charlemagne the God.
Put a little respect on the name.
The God. He had a perfectly respectable interview where he didn't say anything out of the ordinary that a presidential candidate might.
Did.
And if you are a 70-year-old white man, if you're a 70-year-old white man running for president, depending on black voters to come out and vote for you, what might be the worst thing that you could possibly say?
I don't think it even has to be the 70 part. I think if you just said, Corey, you're running for president right now, what's the worst thing you could say to the black community? It's any version of assuming that I understand or that I should be the person who speaks for the black community in any way.
Yeah. I have taken the position.
I've always thought of it like this. Like, think about a friend that you have that's maybe disadvantaged in some sort of way. They don't have enough things to eat, or maybe they don't have a place to live. Like, it's perfectly fair to say about somebody like, we need to I want to help him because I feel sorry for him, or I want to make his life better, or maybe if he gets these breaks, then he's going to be able to continue on to great things in the future. He's down on his luck right now. And then there's the other version where it's like, talking about how he got to this position and there's the two different sides that really it's best just to realize that you're never going to be able to fully understand what somebody is going through, and that the only thing you can ever do is be accommodating of your good feelings towards fixing things in the future.
I have said
I don't consider myself a voice of the black community. I just like to consider myself a voice that speaks alongside members of the black community.
And I don't even go that far. I talk about weaponizing privilege. I will stand side by side with you at the front of the march because I feel as though, and maybe it's incorrect, that police officer is going to think twice about his face being on the news, tear gassing a 35-year-old white man than he would if I wasn't there. But my voice should not be involved. It is your story. I am weaponizing my privilege.
My voice is here only to amplify your message.
Only to amplify your message. That's exactly it. So then what you're saying is you wouldn't say, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black?
Probably not the way to go. Probably not the way that it should be played.
Oh, Joe.
I mean, and I get where he's coming from. I think that Trump's support in the black community right now is in single digits, which is Baltimore Police Department trust levels low.
Yeah.
So you could make the argument that just looking at the numbers, it's not unfair for him to say something like that. I think the part that is troublesome about this is projecting yourself into the argument as to what makes somebody black or not.
Yeah.
I would never go, Urkel ain't black. Because that's not my place to say.
Not my call.
That's not
my call.
I don't, honestly, I don't even know if it's necessarily other black people's place to say. Because, like,
it's not my place to say whether or not it's their place to say, though.
Oh, I know, but I'm saying, like, it's certainly not my place.
Yes.
You could make a reasoned argument that it's not anybody's place to say. But if anyone is going to be able to say how their community should be treated, it should be a people
member of their
community.
Yes, yeah. Not a 70-year-old white man. And listen,
I just picture Obama just like sitting back in a chair watching the Joe Biden on. Like, oh, I love Charlemagne the God. I can't wait to watch this. Just eating popcorn. And he's just like, oh, fuck, Joe. God damn it. Why do you keep doing this?
And it's like, again, you feel Obama's got to feel like he's got to get out there and be like, what Joe meant to say was, it is clear from his track record that he has been a supporter of the black community his entire life.
Yeah.
And Trump's track record has been trying to decimate the black community as much as possible. So really, there is no choice. You should not be for one if you consider yourself a supporter of the community. What he said was not that.
Yeah.
But he's a forgetful 70-year-old white man, and maybe we should just move on from that. Yeah. So, and we keep saying that at some point something's going to happen that's going to just throw Joe off the deep end. But I'm starting to feel that may be a thing of the past. Maybe Trump has created an environment where you just can't. Like, we react really harshly to something, but then it subsides and burn out quickly.
All of politics right now is team sports, and the referee is making questionable calls on the field.
Yep.
If you are a Trump fan and a call has been made against Team Trump, you're like, these fucking people don't know what they're talking about, and this referee should be murdered, and blah, 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 blah. And when it's a call in your favor, you're just like, well, no, that's exactly how the game's supposed to be played. You can't recognize when the call goes against, you can recognize instantly when the call goes against you.
Yeah.
But if it's a questionable call that goes your way, it's just like, well, listen, we play within the margins, and sometimes this...
Yes.
Like some people won't even acknowledge that. No, it was perfectly reasonable. Of course there wasn't a call. Like, you're allowed to tackle people in the open field in baseball. Like,
that is politics in America in 2020. Aren't we awesome?
You know what else is awesome?
What's that?
OTheAnthem.com. Corey to OTheAnthem.com. O The Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line, 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595. You can find more of me on my website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/CoreyBakerFilm, and at LegendsAB5 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Just made a new TikTok video the other day. I know that's how it works. You do it every couple days. That's how you build the cred. So go check that out and look forward to another one in a couple days.
Building the cred.
Review for The Last Dance is up right now on YouTube. I will be doing one for Lovebirds for this coming Monday, so go check that out. And that's about it, I think.
All right. Well, of course, you can find me at Robert N. Cheek on all your social networks. You can check out robertncheek.com, where you can find links to everything that I'm doing, including the YouTube videos, youtube.com/Rob Cheek, where you'll find the Everyman movie review series. This week I did Contagion. I've kind of gone through some older movies that you can find on streaming right now. I got a whole list of them coming. War Games is coming up. Pleasantville, Big, all coming up. I was weirded out to find out that some people hadn't seen those movies. I'm like, okay, so we're going to have to go through some older stuff. And it's available on streaming now.
I feel like some of them are excusable.
Some.
Maybe if you haven't seen Pleasantville, maybe you just missed it.
It's in our generation.
I feel like Big was the type of thing that was on TV so much. I don't know how you missed it.
Yeah, and it was like part of our thing growing up. It's like the movie where Tom Hanks gets to become an adult.
Yeah.
It's like every kid's dream, right?
Right.
So, anyway.
I still wish I could grow up.
I know, Jesus.
And just live my own fucking life.
You can also find links to the books, which are available on Amazon.
Buy Rod's books.
And we got a lot of exciting stuff coming, so keep that posted. And just one final reminder, at O The Anthem on all your social media, but make sure you find the post with the sweepstakes and sign up. We're giving away a free DTLA t-shirt. All you have to do is sign up. It's a free giveaway. You don't have to do anything other than that. So go find the link, go sign up, and have a chance at a free t-shirt.
Well, I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good. But as always, you're listening to the O The Anthem podcast, part of the O The Anthem digital network. For Corey... For Corey, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody.
It's a two-party system. You have to vote for one of us. I think I'll vote for a third-party candidate. Go ahead. Throw your vote away.